indicating that historically Russians have supported Republicans, and I know that language is there, to me puts somewhat of a cloud over the entire report. It seems to indicate the direction it was going in. But anyway, let me just say this for the record, and I know what your answer is going to be, but I have to get the statement on the record. On March 15th, former acting director of CIA, Mike Morell, who was the acting director under President Obama, and put it on the record, I've had differences with Mike Morell in the past, but he was asked about the question of the Trump campaign conspiring with the Russians. And his answer was, campfire. There's no little candle. There's no spark. Do you agree with Mr. Morell?
I can't comment, Mr. King.
Admiral Rogers?
I'm not going to comment on an ongoing investigation.
And I understand that. That was my way of getting on the record, so I appreciate that. You were talking about the significance of leaks and how important it is we stop them. And to me, and I've been here a while, I've never seen such a sustained period of leaks. Going back to December when not the Intelligence Committee, but the Washington Post was told the conclusion of the report. That's number one. What it was going to be. We have situations in the New York Times where they talk of meetings, they talk about transcripts, they talk about conversations. There was one in particular where it spoke about Trump campaign individuals meeting with Russian intelligence agents. And again, Director Comey, I don't know if you can comment on this, but the White House Chief of Staff said, I guess that day or the next day, that Mr. McCabe from your office went to him at the White House and told him that that story was BS. Is there any way you can comment on whether or not Mr. McCabe told that to Mr. Priebus?
I can't, Mr. King, but I can agree with your general premise. Leaks have always been a problem. I read over the weekend something from George Washington and Abraham Lincoln complaining about them. But I do think in the last 6 weeks, couple of months, there's been at least apparently a lot of conversation about classified matters that's ending up in the media. Now, a lot of it is just dead wrong, which is one of the challenges because we don't correct it. But it does strike me there's been a lot of people talking, or at least reporters saying people are talking to them in ways that have struck me as unusually active.
Yes, I fully understand the media's fascination with palace intrigue, with which faction at the White House is trying to outdo the other. That's all, to me, that's all legitimate. That goes with the game. But if you're talking about leaking classified information, if you're talking about leaking investigations, I mean, you stated today that there is an FBI investigation going on. So if the New York Times can be believed, I would think it would have to be some, Mr. McCabe said it was BS, with Russian intelligence agencies. Somebody who was familiar with that investigation spoke to the New York Times. And so I'll use that as an example. And also one where, to me, there's a smaller universe. I think it was on January 6th when yourself, Admiral Rogers, Director Brennan, and General Clapper went to Trump Tower to meet with President Trump. The media reports are that at the end of that meeting, Director Comey, you presented President-elect Trump with a copy of the now infamous or famous dossier. And I don't know how many people were in the room, but within hours, that was leaked to the media, and that gave the media the excuse or the rationale to publish almost the entire dossier. Does that violate any law? I mean, you were at a classified briefing with the President-elect of the United States, and it had to be a very, very small universe of people who knew that you handed them that dossier, and it was leaked out within hours. Are you making any effort to find out who leaked it, and do you believe that that constituted a criminal violation?
I can't say, Mr. King, except I can answer in general.
Yeah.
Any unauthorized disclosure of classified conversations or documents is potentially a violation of the law and a serious, serious problem. I've spent most of my career trying to figure out unauthorized disclosures, where they came from. It's very, very hard. Oftentimes, it doesn't come from the people who actually know the secrets. It comes from one hop out, people who heard about it or were told about it. And that's the reason so much information that purports to be accurate classified information is actually wrong in the media, because the people who heard about it didn't hear about it right. But It is an enormous problem whenever you find information that is actually classified in the media. We don't talk about it because we don't want to confirm it, but I do think it should be investigated aggressively and, if possible, prosecuted so people take as a lesson this is not okay. This behavior can be deterred, and it's deterred by locking some people up who have engaged in criminal activity.
Well, could you state, it was obviously Admiral Rogers was in the room, you were in the room, General Clapper was in the room, and Director Brennan was in the room. Were there any other people in the room that could have leaked that out? I mean, this isn't a report that was circulated among 20 people. This is an unmasking of names where you may have 20 people in the NSA and 100 people in the FBI. It's not putting together a report of all the intelligence agencies. This is 4 people in a room with the President-elect of the United States. And I don't know who else was in that room. And that was leaked out, it seemed within minutes or hours of you handing him that dossier. And it was so confidential, if you read the media reports, that you actually handed it to him separately. So, and believe me, I'm not saying it's you, but I'm saying there's a small universe of people that would have known about that. And if it is a disclosure of classified information, if you're going to start with investigating leaks, to me that would be one place where you could really start to narrow it down.
And again, Mr. King, I can't comment because I do not ever want to confirm a classified conversation with a president or president-elect. I can tell you my general experience, it often turns out there are more people who know about something than you expected at first, both because there may be more people involved in the thing than you realize, not this particular, but in general, and more people have been told about it or heard about it or staff have been briefed on it, and those echoes are, in my experience, what most often ends up being shared with reporters.
Well, could you tell us who else was in the room that day?
I'm sorry?
Could you tell us who else was in the room with you that day?
No, because I'm not going to confirm in the newspaper.
Or could you tell us who was in the room, whether or not there was a conversation?
No, I'm not confirming there was a conversation. In a classified setting, I might be able to share more with you, but I'm not going to confirm any conversations with either President Obama or President Trump, or when President Trump was the president-elect.
Well, not the conversation or even the fact that you gave it to him, but can you tell us who was in the room for that briefing that you gave?
That you're saying later ended up in the newspaper.
Yes.
So my talking about who was in the room would be a confirmation that what was in the newspaper was classified information. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to help people who did something that is unauthorized.
Yeah, but we all know that the 4 of you went to Trump Tower for the briefing. I mean, that's not classified, is it?
How do we all know that, though?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, you can see the predicament we're in here.
No, I get it. I get it. But we are duty-bound to protect classified information, both in the first, when we get it, and then to make sure we don't accidentally jeopardize classified information by what we say about something that appears in the media.
Well, if they're listening, I would just advise that Director Clapper and Director Brennan will be asking them the same questions next week, and perhaps they can give us some answers. Chairman, I give back.
Gentleman yields back. Mr.
Thank you for
Mr. Lobiondo is recognized.